Steve.
We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for Wednesday, May 16th, 2023. I'm Stephen Nelson, hearing examiner for these hearings. We're at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is, for the record for May 17th, 2023. Sorry. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9:01 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 29896 will be continued to June. Case number 29916 will be continued to June. Oh, sorry, I am out of order. I'm all out of, apparently I'm out of sorts today. My apologies. That was the supplemental docket. On page 1, case number 30046 will be continued to June. Case number 30047 will be continued to June. Case number 30048 will be continued to June. Case number 30050 will be dismissed. And then on the supplemental docket, case number 29896 will be continued to June, and case number 29916 will be continued to June. The administrative docket starts on page 3 with case number 30058 and goes through case number 30074 and includes the docket supplement with case number 29916 and 30000. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the oil and gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with case number 30046. Application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Rossbakken Pool to establish an overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit described as sections 19, 30, and 31, Township 156 North, Range 89 West, Montreal County, ND, and to authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to June. Case number 30047, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Stanley Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 1280-acre space unit described as sections 11 and 14, Township 155 North, Range 90 West, Montreal County, ND, and to authorize the 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to June. Case number 30048, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Stanley and/or partial Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 1920-acre space unit described as Section 24, Township 155 North, Range 90 West, and Sections 19 and 20, Township 155 North, Range 89 West, Montreal County, ND, and to authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to June. Case number 30049, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Smoky Butte and/or Green Lake Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 1920-acre space unit described as Section 2, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, Williams County, ND, and Sections 26 and 35, Township 160 North, Range 100 West, Divide County, ND, and to authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Throne, P.O. Box 6590, Sheridan, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of Phoenix Operating LLC. We have 3 witnesses, Mark Johnson, who is here in person, Nick Daniele, and Brandon Allen, who will appear by phone, and I will get them on the line now. Nick and Brandon, you both there? Okay. Okay, gentlemen, are you both there? Did I do it wrong?
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can. Both Brandon and Nick, you there?
Yes, sir. This is Nick.
Okay, you're live.
This is Brandon.
Okay, you're live in the hearing room. Okay, Mark Johnson is here.
All right.
First witness.
Mr. Johnson, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief? Yes. Oh, please make sure your
You need to
microphone's
turn
on.
it- yeah.
And could you respond one more time, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark, would you please state your name and work address for the staff?
Mark Johnson. I'm currently the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs for Phoenix Operating, located at 4643 South Ulster Street, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And for whom do you work?
Phoenix Operating.
Have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters by the staff?
I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Johnson be accepted as an expert in petroleum land matters.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Starting with Exhibit 1, would you please tell the commission and locate the proposed spacing unit that's subject to this hearing?
Yeah, Exhibit 1 shows just a broad overview of where we're looking in the northwest corner of the state, on the border of Divide and Williams County.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 2, please describe in detail the proposed spacing unit and tell the staff what relief the Phoenix is applying for today.
So the spacing unit that we're looking is a 1920, proposed of sections 26 and 35, Township 160, Range 100, and Section 2 of 159, 100. This will be a 3-mile lateral. Section 2 is currently unspaced, and Section 26 and 35 is currently spaced as a 2-mile, or 2680 spacing unit.
And what is the spacing configuration south of Section 2 in 11, 14, and 23?
Those are previously established 1920 stand-up units.
And how many wells does Phoenix propose drilling in this spacing unit?
Our initial application said 5 horizontal wells, but we'd like to amend that down to 4.
So if this staff approves the application, you would request that only 4 wells be authorized?
Yes.
On your Exhibit 2, you've identified other spacing units. Would you please explain those? And I believe they are in dark blue or black.
Yeah, so that's just kind of our Phoenix's plan forward. A couple of these units that are outlined here will have to come back for hearing to be spaced, but that's just kind of our area of interest at the moment that we plan on drilling in the fourth quarter of this year.
And Phoenix does intend to commence operations on these proposed drilling and spacing units.
Yes, we do.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 3, would you please explain the working interest ownership in the proposed spacing unit?
Yeah, currently today, Phoenix has approximately 70% working interest. In 30 days, we'll have another 2.5% due to deals that are papered but have not closed yet.
I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson and ask that Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 be admitted into the record.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Mark, looking at your exhibit, I suppose 4 would be best. First of all, I don't see the well located in 26 and 35, is it? Why wouldn't you have that well located on the 1280 that's been drilled in your proposed 1920?
it must have been an oversight.
So I'm just wondering if there's other wells
No.
that have been drilled out there that aren't on it.
Where's the well you're saying that I've not put on here?
I believe there's a well already drilled in that north 1280, right, in 26 and 35?
There were some permits issued there, but nothing's been drilled.
I don't know about that. Okay. That's possible that I've got something clicked on here that I typically don't. The 1920 pattern, are you aware that the commission likes on-pattern 1920s? Do you know what that means?
You could explain it to me, please?
Okay, well, looking at just Township 160, 100, it would be developing 2, 11, and 14 as a 1920, and then also 23, 26, and 35 as one. I realize that in 159, 100, they're not on pattern, so you're trying to stay on pattern with that off-pattern one. But as we get to the north of 160, 100, we have a staggered township line.
Yep.
And the commission does not like spacing 1920s across a staggered line like that. So at some point, if you continue to drill acreage in this area, we would prefer a laydown somewhere to get on pattern again. And I just want to make sure you're aware of that. We've had several cases where the commission has actually denied 1920s like this that you're proposing, especially where there's areas that you could get on pattern. This is a little different since we've got a numerous ones south of you that we've already granted. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark, does Phoenix have an interest in those sections to the north? 2, 11, 14, and 23?
I am not sure of that. I could investigate that and tell you the answer, but I don't have the answer at this time.
Could you supplement the record with that, please? Your interest in 2, 11, 14, and 23 of 160 North, 100 West?
Mhm.
So based on that answer, I would guess you don't have a development plan for those sections.
Not at this time.
Okay, thanks.
So to Bruce's point, I did look into this a little further, and it does look like a well's been drilled in 26 and 35, and it's a crescent point well. Are you familiar with this or know any information about that well?
I am not familiar.
Have you had any conversations with Crescent Point about that in conjunction with your development plan for these 3 sections?
I have not spoken with Crescent Point.
If I could interject, it appears to me we have a map issue.
Yeah,
I
that,
believe that well is there.
Okay.
yeah. I do remember that now. That well is incorrectly placed on the website. If you look at the scout ticket, it's different than what's platted on the map.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none, I guess we can move on to your next witness.
Well, yeah, one follow-up question with Mark.
Sure.
On one of the proposed spacing units that you have outlined here that is just east of the ones we're talking about today, that is sections 1, 6, and 5, that is a lay-down spacing unit that sits on top of 3 existing 3-matter mile laterals, isn't it?
Can you repeat that again, Tom?
That is a 3-mile lateral that sits on top. Other 3-mile laterals that are off pattern in that same township.
That's correct.
So Phoenix does undertake efforts to correct the irregular spacing, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. And another follow-up question, does the staff want any kind of updated exhibits regarding the non-well in 25 and, or 26 and 35?
No.
Okay. Yes, our next witness is Mr. Nick Daniele.
Mr. Daniele, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
So Nick, would you please state your name and work address for the record?
Nicholas Daniele, 4643 South Ulster Street, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And for whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm the VP of Geology for Phoenix Operating.
And have you previously testified before this commission as an expert in petroleum geology?
No, sir.
Would you please tell the commission your educational and professional background?
I received my Bachelor's of Science from Marshall University, my Master of Science from Colorado School of Mines, and then joined Apache Corporation for 5 years. And then I worked for Centennial Resource Development, who recently merged with Colgate to form Permian Resources for 6 years, and now work for Phoenix Operating.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
Yes, sir.
I would ask that Mr. Daniele be accepted as an expert in petroleum geology.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits, Nick?
Yes.
Starting with Exhibit 4, would you please describe the structure of the Middle Bakken?
Yes, this is a Middle Bakken subsea structure map. Contour interval of 50 feet, and it shows the Middle Bakken tipping slightly to the south.
And is the proposed spacing configuration subject to this hearing imposed on that structure map?
Yes, sir.
And is there a dot labeled type log?
Yes.
And have you also identified a cross-section AA prime on that exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 5, please describe the type log as well as the contents of your cross-section.
The cross-section shows A to A prime, A in the west, A prime in the east, with our type log, the Easterly 111 in the center, which we used for the rock properties below. The first track is gamma ray, the second track is resistivity, and the third track is porosity.
Are the reservoir characteristics also shown on this exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Would you please describe them for the staff?
The average porosity for the Middle Bakken using the Easterby 111, the type log, is 7%, with an average water saturation of 30% and a gross thickness of 49 feet.
And are these the parameters that Mr. Allen will use in his engineering exhibits?
Yes, sir.
And is the Middle Bakken present and continuous across the entire proposed spacing unit?
Yes, sir.
And if the application is approved by the staff, will waste be prevented, relative rights protected, and the drilling of unnecessary wells be prevented?
Yes.
I would ask that Exhibits 4 and 5 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits 4 and 5 are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we can move on to your next witness.
Hey, Brandon, are you there?
I am.
Next witness is Brandon Allen.
All right, Mr. Allen, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yeah.
Brandon, would you please state your name and address for the staff?
My name is Brandon Allen. Our work address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And for whom do you work and in what capacity?
I work for Phoenix Operating as a senior reservoir engineer.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert in petroleum engineering by the staff?
Yes, I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
Yes, I am.
I would ask that Mr. Allen be accepted as an expert in petroleum engineering.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Brandon, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits?
Yes.
Starting with Exhibit 6, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed wellbore diagram?
Yes. This is an example wellbore diagram with proposed surface casing set at approximately 2,000 feet to cover the Pierre Formation, with proposed 7-inch intermediate casing set in the Middle Bakken after landing in the Middle Bakken, and then a proposed 4.5-inch liner set within the 7-inch casing to TD.
And moving on to Exhibit 7, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed development plan?
Yes, the red outline is the outlined proposed unit, and we propose that 4 Middle Bakken wells be drilled in the Middle Bakken pool at this time.
And these 4 wells are consistent with the amendment that Mark discussed earlier.
Yes, that's correct.
And does Phoenix intend to batch drill these 4 wells?
Yes, Phoenix does intend to batch drill these wells.
Moving on to Exhibit 8, would you discuss the economics of a 3-mile lateral?
Yes, our type well economics for a 3-mile Middle Bakken well have an initial rate of 30,000 barrels per month, an average GOR over the life of the well of approximately 2,200 standard cubic feet per barrel, which yields an EUR, oil EUR of 485,000 barrels and a gas EUR of approximately 1 BCF. Using current market pricing and a DNC cost of approximately $9.5 million, the payout for the well is approximately 28 months, with an IRR of 25% and a gross PV10 of $12.8 million.
And lastly, have you attached an affidavit regarding gas capture?
Mr. Johnson has, yes.
Okay, are you familiar with the ability of Phoenix to sell its gas when these wells are drilled?
Yes, I am.
Briefly describe that capacity for the staff.
One Oak has a trunk line, a main trunk line about 1,000 feet south of our proposed location, and we are in talks currently with them on capacity, but they have relayed to us that they have capacity for our wells.
Okay, I have no further questions. I would ask that Exhibits 6, 7, and 8, together with the gas capture affidavit, be admitted into the record. Mr. Johnson's here if you have any questions on the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Brandon, where do you plan on putting the pad?
We will put the pad in the northwest quarter of Section 26 and drill to the south.
And what's your time frame for drilling those wells?
We anticipate to accept a rig from another operator the first week of August of this year.
Thanks.
Brandon, this is David Tabor. Are the facilities for these wells all going to be located on that same pad, or is that a different location that they're gonna flow line to?
No, all the facilities will be on the same pad as the wellheads.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Throne, there was a request for a supplement. I guess what kind of time frame do you think you'll need for that?
Okay, how about, today's Wednesday, how about next Friday?
Next Friday will be May 26th.
Okay,
Good. The record will remain open until May 26th for that supplement. Anything further in this matter, Mr. Throne?
no, that concludes our case. Thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 30049. Moving on, case number 30050, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Big Stone Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 1920 acre space unit described as sections 5 and 8 and 17, Township 159 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, ND, and to authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 30051, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Sorkness Bakken Pool, Montreal County, ND, to establish an overlapping laydown 1280 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 2, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit, establish 2 overlapping stand-up 1920 acre space units described as sections 11, 14, and 23, and sections 12, 13, and 24, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit, establish 1 overlapping 38, 40 acre space unit described as sections 11, 12, 13, 14, 23, and 24, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Oasis Petroleum North America, LLC. Have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, Nicole Meredith, Randy Lambert, and Eva Tomova, and I'll call them now. Hey, Nicole, you guys there? All right.
All right. Ms. Meredith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Nicole, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Nicole Meredith, employed with Oasis Petroleum, or Cord Energy, I'm sorry, a subsidiary of Oasis Petroleum. And address is 1001 Shannon, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas, 7702. And capacity is as a landman.
And Nicole, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Okay, and are you familiar with the land matters associated with these proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Meredith be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Nicole, let's go ahead and start with L1, if you can identify the spacing units that we'll be discussing today.
Sure. L1, I've gone ahead and placed all of the units onto one exhibit. So just to show you a full overview, current spacing, we're sitting at 4 1280 DSUs, each operated by Oasis/Cord. The requested spacing is just south of that, which identifies respacing sections 1 and 2 of the laydown 1280, as well as respacing 11, 14, and 23, and 12, 13, and 24 as two 1920 stand-ups. And we do have an accompanying section line in between the two 1920s to form a 3840 spacing unit.
Okay, let's move on then to L2, if you can take us through the working interest in those proposed spacing units.
Sure. The requested unit working interest summary is below. So in 15793, sections 1 and 2, we've got an 83.7% working interest. We'll move to the first 1920, which is sections 11, 14, and 23, where we've got an 89% working interest. Sections 12, 13, and 24, just to the east, is 88.5% working interest. And then the section line pulling together the entire 3840 acre spacing unit is 88.8% working interest.
Okay, and moving on to L3, if you can take us through the working interest in those existing underlying base units.
Sure. So we'll start at the top right. Sections 1 and 12, we operate and own 100% working interest in that unit. Sections 2 and 11, we have a 67% working interest. Sections 13 and 24, we have an 82.8% working interest. And sections 14 and 23, we have 100% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith that offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Nicole, currently sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, and sections 13, 14, 23, and 24 are lease line 2560s. I assume you want those terminated?
We didn't get it on the docket for this month, but we do plan to terminate those 2560s.
Yeah, you won't need to put it on the docket. This order will take care of that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, I think your next witness was Mr. Lambert.
Correct.
Mr. Lambert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Randy, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Randy Lambert. I work for Oasis Petroleum, a subsidiary of Cord Energy. I am the Director of Geoscience. Address is 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas, 77002.
Randy, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lambert be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Randy, let's go ahead and go through your exhibits, starting with the structure map on G1.
Yeah, G1 structure map, Upper Bakken Shale. I've got colored boxes on there representing the DSUs that Nicole just walked us through, the 1280, the 1920s, and the 3840, all laid on top of each other. Also shown is a location for a type log for the area. Basically structures general dip to the southwest.
Okay. Let's move to the ISOPAC map, exhibit G2.
Same area, same colored boxes represent DSUs. We're looking at a continental of 5 feet for the gross interval thickness for the middle Bakken. Fairly uniform thickness, 60 to 60, 55 to 65 feet across the area.
Okay. And let's move on, if you could take us through the type log in G3.
Type log is focused on the Bakken petroleum system. So highlighted in yellow is the middle Bakken, obviously the target. And we'll lay our wellbores, approximately in the middle of that yellow interval.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Lambert. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, is it Ms. Tulmova? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Eva, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. My name is Eva Tamova Medina, and I'm currently employed with Oasis Petroleum, subsidiary of Cord Energy. Our address is 1001 Fanning Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002. And I'm currently Senior Staff Development Engineer here at Cord.
Okay. And Eva, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Tomova be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Eva, let's go ahead and go through your proposed development plan for each of these spacing units, starting with E1 in that 1920.
Sounds good. So the first one we'll go over is the Van Berkom Lee unit. The proposed 1920 depicted on Exhibit E1. That encompasses sections 11, 14, and 23. We have 3 wellbores in this unit, as proposed wellbores.
Okay.
And the locations will most likely be on the north side based on our current prelim surface discussions we've had.
Okay. Then let's move on to E2, if you can take us through what development would look like for that 1920.
So E2, we're moving to the east side of this block, comprised of the Norby and Ariani. 1920, section 12, 13, and 24. And we're planning on having 3 wellbores in this 1920 as well.
Okay. From the north as well?
Correct.
Okay. Let's move on to E3 then, the section line well, that spacing on the 3840.
Okay, so in between the Van Berkom and Norby, we're planning on having the section line well. That's going to be right on the section line for 3840 spacing unit. It will encompass sections 11, 12, 13, 14, 23, and 24. And there will be only one middle Bakken wellbore here.
Okay. And then moving on to E4, can you describe for us what the development would look like for that laydown 1280?
Sure. So this laydown development obviously will be right on top of what we just went over, and it will comprise of sections 1 and 2 for the 1280 spacing unit, and we're planning on having this should say 4 wellbores, 4 middle Bakken wellbores. So we'll have to change that on the bottom. It says 3, so we'll submit a revision there.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and move on to the reservoir data and the economics, E5.
Okay. So we have one of these for the 1920s, so we'll go over the 1920s first. For the reservoir properties formation, Middle Bakken, as mentioned, estimated reservoir pressure just under 5,000 psi, reservoir temperature 230. Randy talked about the pay porosity about 6.2%, 52% water saturation, 40% oil gravity, 0.9 specific gravity, going into OIP and recovery. We're expecting just over 660 MBO EUR per well and 15% recovery factor. The per well economics were ran at $65 per barrel and $3 per MCF for undiscounted ROI coming at just under 1.3.
And then Eva, exhibit number 6, it looks like that's just the would-be reservoir data and economics for the other 1920, and it appears that's identical to what you've just testified on E5, is that correct?
Correct.
So I don't think we need to go through that again. And then on E7, that would be the reservoir data and economics for that lease line well on the 3840, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I guess, other than the spacing being the 2840 due to it being a section line well, is that information essentially the same as what you've testified to as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and move on to E8 and can just take us through what the reservoir data and then the economics would look like for the laydown 1280 on E8.
Sounds good. So for the laydown 1280, we're looking at very similar reservoir properties as I just went over. For OIP and recovery, we're looking at well EURs just under 470 MBO, similar recovery factor of 15%, average oil price and gas price that this we ran at was similar at 65 and 3, and the ROI here is slightly lower at 1.15.
Okay. And Eva, we've discussed these multiple spacing units. In your opinion, would this proposed spacing and sort of area-wide development plan, would that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir, I do believe.
Okay.
So,
I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Eva, if you look at E1, do you plan on drilling all those wells from one pad or multiple pads?
we are in the process of evaluating that.
Okay, so you don't,
Potentially, one or the other.
okay. Would you put all the production equipment on one or the other, or would you split those?
Still TBD. I don't know if I can confirm just yet.
Okay, if you look at E4, it looks like you're crossing 2 active wells. Do you plan on producing those 2 wells in conjunction with the 4 new wells?
Yes, sir.
So you
We're
plan
planning on.
you just blank some stages when you go through there? Or what's your plan?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What's your plan for when you cross those well bores to ensure that you don't collide with them?
We're going to geosteer around them, and we are planning on potentially spacing the stages, the frac stages, away from those wellbores.
Okay, thanks.
Eva, on exhibit E4, where do you plan to locate the pad for those 4 wells?
The plan, the initial plan, and again, this is not final, but the initial surface scouting we had was showing it to the east side.
On exhibit E8, I assume your lateral length is not 15,000 feet?
Correct, yes. I apologize. I caught that out as I was
nineteen twenty acre development and 1280 acre development in this proposal, do you plan to drill the 1920s and the 1280s in the 1280 wells in succession?
So the current plan is to drill the 1280 at a later date, as it stacks up lower on our inventory ranking.
Is that because of the economics?
Yes, sir.
So will Oasis drill the 1280 wells?
Yes, we're planning on marching northeast in this corridor. That being said, looking at the economics, we might consider respacing the rest of this area in Q3 of this year. So looking at the economics of the lay down 1280, that might also drive us to attempt to make those 1920s as well in the coming months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that will obviously accelerate them.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Brand, it sounds like there may be some supplement or some revisions there.
I guess, Mr. Examiner, it's up to the commission if they want. I think the one was a typo on the development plan where it showed the 4 well bores, but below it said 3. And then the other one was on the reservoir data and economics where the lateral length showed it was, that was kind of a typo too. I mean, if you want them, we can submit them with those changes.
Yeah, I don't think we would need those, but on Exhibit E8, Eva, what would the lateral length be? Would it be 10,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I suppose we won't need supplement. Anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, and that will conclude the hearing in case number 30051. Moving on, case number 30052, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bowen Trail Bakken Pool, Williams County, ND, to establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre space unit described as sections 3, 10, and 15, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. Establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre space unit described as sections 22, 27, and 34, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Oasis Petroleum North America, LLC. Mr. Examiner, Ms. Meredith and Mr. Lambert will testify again in this case, but Andrew McLean will be the engineer testifying in this case.
All right. Ms. Meredith, I'll swear you in again here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Nicole, let's start with Exhibit L1, if you can identify the spacing units we'll be discussing.
Sure. Similarly to last case, I've got those or each of the requested spacing together. So on top, we've got the current spacing, which is 3 stacked 1280s on top of each other, comprised of sections 3 and 10, 15 and 22, and 27 and 34, all Oasis operated. The requested spacing is to respace these as to 1920, comprised of sections 3, 10, and 15, and sections 22, 27, and 34.
Okay. And then moving on to L2, can you take us through the working interest in the proposed 1920s?
Yes, so the working interest for the northern unit is 95.3%. That's in sections 3, 10, and 15 of 156-102. And the southern 1920, comprised of 22, 27, and 34, is a little over 97% working interest.
Okay. And move on to L3, if you can take us through the working interest on those existing 1280s.
So the current working interest in the existing space units, sections 3 and 10, is a little over 95%. Sections 15 and 22, we've got 95.8%. And sections 27 and 34, we have 98.1%.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith that offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Lambert. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And Randy, why don't you go ahead and start with G1, take us through that structure map.
G1, structure map, Upper Bakken Shale, contour interval 20 feet, DSUs that we desire in the color boxes, and location of the type log just to the east of the two 1920s.
Okay. Moving on to the ISOPAC map.
Fairly uniform thickness here, about 40 feet gross interval thickness based on the ISOPAC map. DSUs are referenced by the same colors previous.
Okay. And why don't you describe your type log for us, G3?
Type log, typical triple track display here. We've got the middle Bakken highlighted in yellow. Target interval will be, about midpoint in that section for these boreholes.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Lambert. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Mr. Landberg, can you give some detail as far as the high point that you're showing in section 32 and 5 on exhibit G2 on the ISOPAC map? Is that due to a top that you found, as far as that being an artifact of that being, it looks like 40 feet or 40 feet thickness?
Yeah, that's due to a top interval pick in probably one of the lateral wells. So you get a little bit of error related to the TVD-MD conversion in there when you're using an MWD log. So that's probably why it's contouring in there. So it's more or less an artifact of contouring.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Mr. McLean, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Andrew, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. Andrew McLean, worked for Oasis Petroleum, 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas, 77002. Oasis is a subsidiary of Cord Energy, and I am a development engineer.
Andrew, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes.
Did you have your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes.
All right, I move the testimony of Mr. McLean be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Okay. And Andrew, let's start with E1. If you can take us through what the proposed development plan would be for that northernmost 1920.
Yeah, so in sections 3, 10, and 15 of 156 North, 102 West, we have a stand-up 1920 with proposed 3 wells in the Bakken. And so this would be a revision from the description of this case where we had 4 wells proposed. We revised down to 3.
Okay. And then moving on to E2, can you take us through what your development plan would be for that proposed 1920?
Yes, section 22, 27, and 34 of 156 North, 102 West, stand-up 1920 with 2 proposed middle Bakken wells. Again, a revision down from what was in the description for the case, from 3 wells to 2.
Okay. Let's move on to E3, if you could take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Yeah, so this is a economic sheet, kind of normalized for well econs in this area for us, and it's at a high level here with average oil price of about $65 per BO, gas at $3 per MCF, and with the recovery factor of 15%, you can see an undiscounted ROI of about 2.15.
Okay. And again,
And this is for the,
for that.
sorry, this is for the northern unit. Yeah, sorry, I did not write that down in the header.
No, that's fine. And you're looking at 3 wells, you said, and as opposed to 4?
Yeah, so 3 wells, 3 new wells, and then these economics are kind of normalized for 4 wells in the unit. So the recovery factor is kind of unit-wide, and then the economics are per well for the 3 new wells.
Okay. Then moving on to E4, that would be for the
Yeah, so-
southernmost?
That was the intention here. I realize I have a mistake here, and I would ask that you guys disregard this exhibit, and I'll put together a supplement.
And Andrew, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve these two 1920s with this proposed plan of development, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. McLean. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Andrew, on exhibit E1 and E2, are these wells gonna be, all 5 wells gonna be drilled from the same pad?
We are still looking at surface. So I would typically with five wells, we could do it all from the same pad, but we need to make sure that we have kind of a good, clear understanding of the surface stuff before we commit whether or not we have the space for that.
Is that drilling all 5 from one pad, that's a possibility as depicted on the exhibits?
Yes, that's the goal that we're going for.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none? I guess again, there was a
Yeah.
request for supplement.
Andrew, can you get us that supplemental exhibit in a week?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so 1 week, that will be Wednesday, May 24th. The record will remain open until Wednesday, May 24th for that supplement. Is there anything else in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, then that will conclude the hearing in case number 30052. It is just about 10 a.m. Why don't we take a 10-minute break and meet back here at 10:10 a.m. we are back on the record. The time is 10:10 a.m. Moving on to case number 30053. Application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Sorkness and/or Big Butte Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 2560-acre space unit described as sections 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC. I have three witnesses testifying in this case, and each of the Hess cases, Derek Abrahamson, Jacob Smith, and Aisha Keshemir. And they should be on the line right now.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Derek, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Derek Abrahamson, Hess Corporation land negotiator. Address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
Derek, have you previously testified before the commission? Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with these proposed spacing units?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Abrahamson be received as that of an expert.
Your testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Derek, let's go ahead and start with exhibit number 1, and if I could have you identify the proposed spacing unit.
Yeah, sure. Exhibit 1's location map, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, Montreal County. In blue are the existing 12 80 DSUs, one being section, the stand-up being sections 28 and 33. To the northeast of that, another laydown being sections 27 and 26, and below that, a laydown 1280 being sections 34 and 35. And in green is the requested 2560 spacing.
Let's move on to exhibit number 2, if you could take us through the working interest in the spacing unit.
Yep, in yellow is the Hess-operated Ian McKenna, being sections 28 and 33. Hess owns roughly 38%, Northern 24%, and XTO 19%. In orange is the Hess-operated Ian Van Berkom. Hess owns roughly 66%, and Oasis 21%. And below that, in blue, being sections 34 and 35, is the Ian Sable Hess-operated DSU. Hess owns roughly 58%, Northern 19%. And the total combined working interest in the proposed 2560 spacing, Hess would own roughly 50%, Northern 17%, XTO 11%, others 21%.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Smith. Can you hear me?
I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Jacob, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Jacob Smith. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a geologist with a business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Jacob, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Smith be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Jacob, let's start with your exhibit number 3, if you can walk us through that structure map.
Sure. So Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 in green. It's a top middle Bakken structure map with a 50-foot contour interval, and formation will be dipping to the south. The purple 8A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and moving on to exhibit number 4, can you walk us through that cross-section?
So this is a stratigraphic cross-section plotted on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present continuous throughout the region.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Smith that offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on to Ms. Keshemir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. Aisha Kashmir is a engineer employed by Hess Corporation, located in 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Aisha, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering related matters associated with the spacing units?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Keshemir be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Aisha, let's go to exhibit number 5. Can you describe your proposed development plan for this spacing unit?
Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for section 2728 and section 3334. The gold dashed line is the proposed well, and it would be drilled in the Middle Bakken formation from the same bag as the infill.
Okay. And let's move on to exhibit number 6. Can you take us through the reservoir data and economics?
So exhibit number 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in East Nelson area. The expected EUR is around 690,000 standard barrels with 1.7% recovery factor. Economics were run at 62 barrels WTI flat and 100% walk-in interest. The expected NPV is around 8 million with the rate of return over 100.
Aisha, in your opinion, would this spacing unit with this proposed development prevent waste and protect correlative rights?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 30053. Moving on. Case number 30054. Application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Beaver Lodge Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre space unit described as sections 28, 29, 32, and 33, Township 156 North, Range 95 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. Mr. Examiner, it's come to my attention this morning that the spacing unit that's requested in this case that already exists, it was spaced, I believe, in order number 26893. So we can dismiss this case without prejudice since the spacing is already in place.
Okay, I guess, are there any comments from commission staff or questions?
I believe we did have a letter of opposition in this case from a Lois Weimer. Have you seen that, Wade?
Yep, we've seen it. And, Mr. Bohr, Mr. Examiner, I mean, to the extent that she's challenging the spacing, I guess it seems that would be moot since the spacing already exists. I mean, to the extent that she does also challenge, looks like the associated pooling. I don't believe this has been pooled yet, and we are still seeking, the pooling. So to the extent that, you'd like us to address anything that she's raised in this letter, we'd be prepared to do that, just briefly, so.
Wade, do you know if she objected at the original spacing?
I don't know. I had my assistant look, and I think it might have been space like back in 2015. Do you
A
know?
long time
Is it-
ago.
So I'm not certain on that.
So at any rate, her, as you mentioned, her comments might be moot in this case, but they would be applicable in the pooling case.
Right, and that's fine. We can kind of cover that just briefly. I've got my land witness, and I guess I can address part of it, but the land witness can address and answer any questions.
Yes. Would the commission prefer to discuss this now, or?
We can, I suppose you have to call the case
Yep, so, or I guess we've, for 30054, or,
for the pooling.
30067, I believe, is the associated pooling case.
okay, and so that will be, that's over in the other room, so I guess we can remand that back to this hearing room and have that as part of this hearing.
That's fine.
All right, and we'll do that in a minute. So 30067. That's application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC for an order pursuant to NDAC Section 430203 88.1, pooling all interests in a spacing unit described as sections 28, 29, 32, and 33, Township 156 North, Range 95 West, Beaver Lodge Bakken Pool, Williams County, ND, as provided by NDCC Section 380808, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is consolidated into the current case for purposes of hearing. And then we can,
Yeah, and I'll call Derek Abrahamson, but just, I guess, a couple comments prior to that, Mr. Examiner. I mean, we have no objection to the letter, being admitted. It is hearsay, but there's just some general sort of objections here with respect to pooling. I mean, she hasn't argued that it's, that there's not an existing spacing unit, that there's not, separately owned tracks, that there's some voluntary pooling in place. None of that exists. So, I mean, to the extent that she's challenging the pooling of this spacing unit, Commission is aware of 380808 that, that they shall pool the separate interests within that spacing unit as long as those certain conditions are met. She hasn't, challenged or objected to any of those, so there really is no basis for her to, with respect to the pooling. I mean, she has made some sort of general, I guess, I'd call them complaints with respect to, like a risk penalty, and those things. I guess, in my opinion, those are premature, and I can have Mr. Abrahamson sort of testify to this, but, it's my understanding that they'll comply with the, all the requirements in 430203 with respect to invitations to participate, and, then at that point, it's gonna be up to Ms. Weimer, whether or not she, elects to participate or not, and, so I think it's kind of premature on that end. And then I think she has some general, just kind of flaring or gas capture, maybe complaints, and I can have Derek touch on that. So I'll call Derek Abrahamson at this time.
so I guess at the start, I'll go ahead, I'm going to admit the letter for the record.
Yeah, that's fine.
Into this case, so that exhibit is accepted. So we'll move on to Mr. Abrahamson. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Derek, I think you've seen and are familiar with the letter from Ms. Lois. I'm not sure if it's Weimer or Weimer. You've seen that, correct?
Yes, I have.
Do you happen to know, what her interest is in this spacing unit?
Yeah, so total she owns 2.39 acres. 3.9 of those are leased, and 2 of those are unleased. Sorry, 0.39 of those are leased, and 2 are unleased.
Okay. And then, with respect to, once you, if the spacing's approved, or I guess the spacing is approved, if you get the permit to drill, will you comply with the commission's rules and regulations with respect to risk penalties, as laid out in 430203, 16.3.
Yes, we will send her a ballot to participate, and at the same time, we will also offer her a lease as well, in good faith, with a good faith offer.
With respect to the interest that's currently unleased?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Do you, and I don't know if you can answer this, Derek, but there's also some comments regarding, I think flaring related issues. Do you know what the well, that's proposed to be drilled on this spacing unit, is that going to be connected to, gathering infrastructure?
Yeah, in the Beaver Lodge area, we recover. We do not flare anything, so we recover all gas.
Okay. Mr. Examiner, that's really all I have for Mr. Abrahamson. I don't have any other exhibits or testimony at this time.
Sure. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Yes, anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, and that will conclude the hearing in case number 30054, consolidated with 30067. Moving on. Case number 30055, application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Dollar Joe Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre space unit described as sections 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 156 North, Range 97 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC, and it'll be Mr. Abrahamson, Mr. Smith, and Ms. Keshmir again.
All right, Mr. Abrahamson, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Derek, why don't you go ahead and start with exhibit number 1 and identify the spacing unit for us?
Yep, sure. Exhibit 1's location map of Williams County, Township 156 North, Range 97 West. In blue are the existing stand-up 1280 DSUs, the one to the west being sections 28 and 33, and east of that being sections 27 and 34, and in green as the requested 2560 space unit.
Okay, and let's move on to exhibit number 2. Take us through the working interest.
Okay, in Exhibit 2, in yellow is the Hess-operated Go Broughton DSU, being sections 28 and 33. Hess owns roughly 80% working interest in Northern Oil, 15%. And in blue is the Hess-operated Go Alaskan, being sections 27 and 34. Hess owns roughly 75% working interest, Granite Ridge 10%. And the total working interest for the combined 2560 DSU, Hess would own roughly 78% working interest and Northern 11% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Abrahamson. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Smith. Can you hear me?
I can.
You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Derek, go ahead and describe the structure map for this spacing unit.
Sure. This is a top-middle Bakken structure map with a 50-foot contour interval showing formation dipping to the southwest. And the purple A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the next exhibit.
Okay, and then moving on to exhibit number 4, can you take us through the cross-section?
Yep. So this is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits 3 and 4 are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Keshmir, Do you solemnly swear or affirm
Yes,
under
sir.
the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, let's go to exhibit number 5, and if you can describe your proposed development plan.
Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for section 27, 28, and section 33, 34. The highlighted dashed line is the proposed decline well and would be drilled in the middle Bakken formation.
Okay, and let's move on to exhibit number 6. Take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir economic summary for a single middle Bakken well in the Goliath area. The expected EUR is around 620,000 with 2.5% recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 WTI flat and 100% working interest. Expected NPV is around $8 million with a rate of return over 100.
And Aisha, in your opinion, would the 2560 for this lease line well prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Hi, Aisha, this is Bruce Hicks. On Exhibit 5, you're showing the surface location in the northeast of 28. Will all 3 of those wells be drilled, batch drilled?
Yes.
And it appears that you have some other wells that will be drilled, either lease line wells to the north or development on 1280s. So there's,
Yeah, there's another. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering how many wells are gonna be located on that pad?
There's a total of 6 wells.
Okay, and they will all be
Three
batch
wells.
drilled?
Yeah, they're all 3 batch drilled.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none, anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner.
All right, and that will conclude the hearing in case number 30055. Moving on, case number 30056, application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Manitou Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre space unit described as sections 29, 30, 31, and 32, Township 156 North, Range 94 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2, and the same 3 witnesses will testify in this case.
All right, Mr. Abrahamson, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And Derek, let's start with exhibit number 1. Can you identify the spacing unit?
Yep. Location map, Township 156 North, Range 94 West, Montreal County. In blue are the existing stand-up 1280 DSUs, one being sections 30 and 31, and the other being sections 29 and 32. And in green is the requested 2560.
Okay. And exhibit number 2, can you take us through the working interest?
Yes, sure. This is the proposed 2560 DSU. In yellow is the Hess-operated Ian Hansen S, being sections 30 and 31. Hess owns roughly 98% working interest in that. In blue is the existing Hess-operated 1280 DSU, being sections 29 and 32, the Ian Hageland. Hess owns roughly 90% working interest in that. And the total for the proposed 2560 DSU, Hess would own roughly 94% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions. I would offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
And Jacob, let's go to exhibit number 3, if you can describe the structure underlying this spacing unit.
Yep. So this is a top middle block construction map with a 50-foot contour interval showing formation dipping south-southeast. And the purple 8-8 prime line represents the location of the wells used in the next exhibit 4.
Okay, And let's move on to that exhibit. Can you describe your cross-section?
Yep. This cross-section is flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing the targeted formations are present continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits 3 and 4 are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Keshemir, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, let's go to exhibit number 5. And again, can I have you take us through your proposed development plan?
So Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 2930 and Section 3132. The bold dashed line is the proposed well and would be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation on the same pad as the infill.
And let's move on to exhibit 6. Take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in East Nesson area. The expected EUR is around 850,000 standard barrels with 2.1% recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected NPV is around $12 million with over 100% rate of return.
And Aisha, again, in your opinion, would this spacing unit and development prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 30056. Moving on, case number 30057, application of Hesbach Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ray Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, Township 156 North, Range 97 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC. I have the same 3 witnesses testifying in this case.
All right, Mr. Abrahamson, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And Derek, again, starting with exhibit number 1, if you could identify the spacing unit for us.
Location map of Township 156 North, Range 97 West, Williams County. In blue is the stand-up existing 1280 DSUs, one being sections 6 and 7, and the other being sections 5 and 8. And in green is the requested 2560 spacing.
Okay, and moving on to exhibit number 2, if you can take us through the working interest.
Sure. For this 2560 in yellow, you have the stand-up has operated Go Blake, being sections 6 and 7. Has owns roughly 80% working interest, and others 9%. In blue, you have the Hess operated Go Solberg, 1280 being sections 5 and 8. Hess owns roughly 72% working interest, and others 10%. And for the total 2560 proposed spacing, we have Hess owning 76% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Smith, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
And Jacob, go ahead and go to exhibit 3 and take us through the structure map.
So this is a Middle Bakken structure map presented with a 50-foot contour interval, formation dipping to the southwest, and the purple 8A prime going through it represents the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and moving on to exhibit 4, can you take us through the cross-section?
So this cross-section is flattened on top of the Bakken, showing the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 3 and 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Ketchumir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, let's go to exhibit number 5, and if I can have you describe your proposed plan of development for the spacing unit?
So Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 5, 6, and Section 7 and 8. The highlighted dashed line is the proposed lease line well and will be drilled in the Milwaukee formation from the same side as the infill.
And Aisha, moving on to exhibit number 6, can you take us through the reservoir data and economics?
So Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Milwaukee well in Goliath area. The expected EUR is around 690,000 barrels with 2.8% recovery factor. Economics will run at 62 WTI flat and 100% working interest. Expected NPV is around 7.6 million with a rate of return over 100%.
And Aisha, in your opinion, would the proposed spacing in this development prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right. That will conclude the hearing in case number 30057. Moving on. Case number 29896, application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Co. LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Keenbakken Three Forks Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre space unit described as sections 23, 24, 25, and 26, Township 153 North, Range 96 West, McKenzie County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to June. And that will conclude today's hearings.